Hello students, this is Mr. Fugay, and welcome to this video where we are going to talk about degrees, minutes, and seconds. Now if you're reading that title, you're probably wondering, hold on, degrees are angles, but minutes and seconds are things I use to tell time. Well, they do have a loose connection to one another, and let's talk about that. So what you're probably already familiar with coming into this video is that one complete revolution of a circle contains 360 equal parts, and each of those little parts we call degrees. Now we talked about that in the first week of class, where I explained that they chose that number thousands of years ago because it was an easily divisible number. Well, here's part of the reason why. Because if we want to go smaller than 1 degree, okay, so if you're looking at this little white pie slice, that is 1 degree. But what if we wanted to get smaller than that? What if I wanted a more precise measurement? Now we're used to using decimals, but decimals sometimes aren't necessarily the most effective way to measure very small things. And in the case of angles, we're talking the same. So one very common way that's used in specific fields where this, and I'll show you an example down below in a minute, where very small measurements are important, what we like to do is divide each of those degrees into 60 equal parts, and we call each of those little pieces a minute. Kind of like how we have 60 minutes in 1 hour. So it's using that same idea where we're taking a circle like a clock, splitting it up into hours, we're splitting it up into degrees, and then you split the hour up more, just like we are here with degrees. Now, in addition, you can split a minute up even more into 60 equal parts called seconds. Now, we're really not going to use seconds in this course, but I do want you to be aware that if I have, 5 degrees in 2 minutes, that I can then split further down and be more specific than that. And let me show you an example of where this is used commonly. And we can take a look at our globe. The globe is also divided up into degrees, and it's actually how we tell positions on Earth. GPS and different things that help you get directions, this is exactly what they use. And the coding for that is that we have latitude and longitude. So take a look at where Horsham is on the map here. So Horsham is obviously in this general area right here on the map. So if we look at its latitude measurements, you see that it's measured at 40 degrees, and you'll see that the 40 degree mark is this arc right here, which you can see is really close to Horsham actually. And then the longitude, which is the vertical position of the town, is at 75 degrees. Now 75 degrees is smack between 80 and 70. Now you might see that if we didn't have a more precise measurement, that we would end up somewhere maybe in South Jersey. And that's going to be not specific enough. Well, rather than using decimals for this, this is where we break down and we talk about some minutes and seconds, some additional measurements, some decimal measurements that will move us a little bit closer from being in South Jersey to ending up being in Horsham. And that's one of the important reasons why these specified fractional measurements of degrees are important. And so we will be using them in geometry, and I'm going to take you through in these next few minutes to show you to do some operations with them, like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, and also how to convert it back and forth from a decimal notation to this degrees, minutes, and seconds notation. Now, as I mentioned in this course, we're going to keep things simple and just leave it to degrees and minutes. And just to point out, we know what the degree symbol looks like. That's what this is. And then this symbol right here, okay, the single dash there in the superscript is going to be our minutes symbol. So when you're adding and subtracting in this case, quite literally, we're just adding common units together. So this is as simple as, all right, well, we'll take 47 plus 23, and that's going to give me 70 minutes. And then we're going to take 45 degrees and 16 degrees to give me 61 degrees. Now, we don't want to leave this as our answer because just like we talk about the clock, after we reach 60 minutes, we don't say 61 minutes, 62 minutes in most situations. In many common situations, we will then reset and say it's 1 hour and 1 minute, 1 hour and 2 minutes. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to take 60 of these minutes and move it over here because that equals 1 degree. So a simplified answer here would be 62 degrees and 10 minutes. So that's what we need to keep in mind when we are adding. Likewise, when we are subtracting, when we start with our minute, our smaller unit first, 16 minus 47 is going to give me a negative angle. And we don't want to do that at all costs. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take one of my degrees away, and I'm going to carry that over here. Now, since 1 degree is equal to 60 minutes, that means now I have a total of 76 minutes I am working with. And now I can proceed with my subtraction in a much simpler way. We get 29, and then 58 minus 29 is also 29. So we end up with 29 degrees and 29 minutes. Moving into multiplication division, the same idea. So when you have 3 times this, we're tripling both the number of degrees and the number of minutes in this situation. So 36 times 3 is 108 degrees, and 45 times 3 is going to be 135 minutes. Just as we've mentioned before, we need to look at this number 135, and we'll see that there's 120 minutes contained in it, and we know that that is equivalent to 2 degrees. Remember, every 60 minutes. So if I say, oh, there's 135 minutes left in the school day, well, I could say that. There's nothing wrong with saying that, but a more precise way to speak about this would be to say that it is 2 hours and 15 minutes. And that's exactly what I'm going to do here. We'll move this down and call this 110. And as I mentioned, there were 15 minutes left over, so our final answer is 110 degrees and 15 minutes. And same with division. So when we're dividing, we're not doing any long division here. We're just going to take 59 divided by 2 and 27 divided by 2. So when we do that, we're going to get 29.5, and then 27 divided by 2 is 13.5. Now, what do we do in this situation? Well, there's a couple things we have to address. Number one, when we have half of a degree is like half of an hour on the clock. That means that's equivalent to 30 minutes. So we're going to get 29 degrees, and then 30 plus 13 is 43. Now, you'll notice that there is a 0.5 here for the minutes. Now, in this specific course, Geometry Honors, I'm okay with you stopping here, that we just have to be as specific as naming it degrees and minutes, and we don't have to get further, which means you can leave minutes as a decimal. However, what you will see in other places and other courses is that we can break that down into seconds. So just because I'm here to show you this, I will show you an alternative way you could write this. A half of a minute is the same thing as 30 seconds, just like on the clock. So this would be the longer notation for it. But again, for this course, for Honors Geometry, I'm also fine with the one on the left-hand side. Okay, so we've talked about what degrees, minutes, and seconds are, why degrees, minutes, and seconds are used, and now we've looked at operations. The last thing we got to talk about in this video is how to convert. So take a look at this quick example A here. What I'm simply doing is we are taking so in a decimal to degree, minutes, and second format, I take the decimal amount of degrees that I have, I split it up. Now you don't have to write all this out, but what I'm ultimately doing with it is taking it and multiplying it by 60. Once again, because there are 60 minutes in 1 degree. I'll get 18 for that, and that's the reason I'm coming up with this answer. It's 47 degrees and 18 minutes. So if you want to pause the video and try this yourself, you may certainly do so. If you want to see me work through one, here we go. I'm going to take that 0.55, that decimal amount, and we're going to multiply it by 60 to once again figure out how many minutes we are working with. And the answer to that is equivalent to 33 minutes. So the degrees, minutes, and second notation for this would be 48 degrees and 33 minutes. So that's moving from decimal notation to degrees, minutes, and second format. Let's go the other way around, because there might be situations where this is going to happen as well. And you'll see that the only difference in this case is that instead of multiplying by 60, we are going to divide by 60. Take the number of minutes that we have, divide it by 60 to get its decimal equivalent, and that's how we come up with our final answer. So in this situation, we're going to take that 15 minutes, we're going to divide it by 60, and when I do that, we get a nice clean 0.25, and since we already have our 35 degrees figured out, the answer to this final question would be 35.25 degrees. So with that being said, I want you to take a moment now as this video wraps up and try some of these practice problems below. Here's an opportunity to try up to 12 practice problems. My recommendation is to try the odds first, check your answers on the odds, and if everything seems good, well, then you can decide from there what you want to do. But if there was anything that you need more clarification on or more help with, I would recommend trying the even problems in addition to those odds. That will conclude this lesson. I hope you found it useful and helpful, and good luck with your work. I hope you have a good rest of your day.